Hello, patrons. It's Saturday, December 31st, the final day of 2016, New Year's Eve, and this is your Cup of Jones. Hey, everyone. Big day, big year. There are a lot of reasons to be upset at 2016, but 2016 gave me easy allies and gave me all of you. So I am grateful to 2016 for that. I have a beard. I just got back from Yellowstone, which is a national park located mostly in Wyoming. It was very cold. I believe it got up to 25 degrees below zero while we were there, which is kind of fun. Your eyelashes get glued together with frost. It's good times. And I grew a beard because it was very cold, and I was like, hey, if I'm putting like 12 layers on every day, then screw it, I'm not shaving. And then I got back, flew to Florida to hang out with the in-laws, and still had the beard and was like, I don't feel like shaving because I'm taking it easy over the holidays. And I was like, oh wait, I'm shooting a Cup of Jones when I get back. I should probably grow this out, actually have a beard for Cup of Jones, because I believe that was a question before that came up in the podcast or something. So it's not like a full beard. This is 2 weeks. I am definitely shaving it immediately after shooting this Cup of Jones, so enjoy it while it lasts. This might not be the last beard because sometimes it's nice to just not shave and just not have to worry about that. And there were a lot of reasons I didn't take a break over the holidays because I went on crazy snowshoe excursions into the forest, and that was tiring. I came back, I'm cutting a lot of videos, producing a lot of stuff like this, technically on my break. But I definitely want to get some videos out and definitely want to get some comments out to everyone. So national parks are awesome. Yellowstone National Park is awesome. It's the very first national park commissioned by Ulysses S. Grant. And the United States was the first country in the world, in the entire world, to do that, to set apart a plot of land as a national park and say nobody can build here. There's no financial enterprises, anything. We're going to run this. We're going to provide security and maintenance and everything else. They reintroduced wolves in the 90s. It's imagine that. Imagine having no wolves in this environment for like decades, and then you drop like 6 wolves in there. Like that's a Pixar movie. Like the first 6 wolves coming back to Yellowstone, and like all the deer are like, hello. The wolves are like, hi, I can eat you, right? That's how this works. So yeah, Yellowstone is cool. Look it up, kids. Lots of stuff to talk about. I hope you enjoyed our Game of the Year proceedings. We did a Game of the Year stream. I produced a 14-minute Game of the Year video. Very different from how we did it at Game Trailers. Kind of a 50-50 split between a way we wanted to do GOTYs that was different from how we did at Game Trailers, and a way we wanted to do GOTYs that was actually possible to produce, given how different things are now at Easy Allies. So that was different. Parts of it I liked, parts of it I want to do different next year, but curious what you think in the comments, and just generally hope you enjoyed it. Thank you to Mr. Jason A. Sackle for providing our Oswald mug for today. He said he saw it in the background, so some of you might have seen it in the background up on the shelf. Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, created by Walt Disney before he created Mickey, which he then lost to another company and then got back later on, and now has returned to theme parks and cartoons and video games. So thank you, Jason, for another Disney-themed mug. And really, I'm not rocking a lot of Oswald merchandise, so thank you for adding Oswald to my decor. We're meeting soon to talk about 2017, to talk about stuff we want to do differently than we did this year, stuff that we want to do this year that we haven't done, which we'll get to because some people asked some really good questions in this episode. And our 1-year anniversary, which is coming up on March 21st, 3 months away. We're definitely planning something. We will have specific details. I'm working that out right now. And it's going to be very exciting. But if you, for right now, maybe you want to figure out a way that you can get to Los Angeles to hang out with us, we will be in Los Angeles partying on March 21st. More details soon. We had a meet and greet, which I mentioned in the description on Patreon, but I didn't get into in the last Cup of Jones, which was awful because it happened right after this amazing meet and greet that happened at PSX. And I just want to say thank you to everybody that came out. I definitely, again, we'll talk about this later, but want to do more stuff like that in the future. But that was an extraordinary experience. Somebody asked about it. We can get into details about how the meet and greet went. But just to kick things off, thank you to everybody who actually made it out, showed up, and was just such a nice person to hang out with at the meet and greet. Thank you to Ian Hink and Mike Huber for producing Christmas episodes of their respective shows. I wanted to do a Christmas episode of Cup of Jones, ran out of time, ended up doing a stream with Amanda on Christmas Eve, where we did a little bit of what I wanted to do, which was like sing Christmas carols and stuff like that. But thank you to everybody who tuned in for that. And speaking of my better half, she was on Fiasco Knots. If you haven't caught that episode, Amanda was finally on Fiasco, which is great because Amanda's a better improviser than all of us combined. So it was nice to get her involved in that. And that's all I have to do before feedback. Let's answer some questions. So the last episode I had Buttons on. I mean, not really. Buttons is a puppet. Again, I'm just like shattering that reality. This is a brave new honest world we're getting into with Easy Allies. Buttons is a puppet. Buttons does not exist. It was a character created by myself and Kyle Bossman, performed 99.9% of the time by me. Lots of great people had questions about Buttons. Retro PS4 wants to know, if you guys had a studio, is there more likelihood we might get occasional skit appearances from Buttons, or was this it? I mean, Buttons is right back there. It doesn't really cost anything to include Buttons in any things that we're doing. But again, it's just about expectations. It's just about creatively wanting to think of new things and having such a great opportunity to do that. No offense to Buttons. Buttons is also like, Buttons hurts. But I would love to do like a diagram. I think it's like this. Like this is Button's mouth, basically. If I can do like a profile of that, and then you have like the hands off to the side. So like Buttons makes me kind of arthritic, and so I have a love-hate relationship with Buttons as far as what it takes to actually perform. You also have to write the script ahead of time, and then export that and make it sound like Buttons and memorize it, because it sucks to be doing like a 45-second take of Buttons and I just messed up one thing, and it's like, well, we can probably use that, but it's going to drive me crazy while we're editing. So I'm like, yeah, that one part doesn't match up. Mike Hook wants more. Can you make a Buttons show happen? It would be fun to watch him give snarky answers to our questions. That would be good, but I can't promise that right now. I got too much work to do. But that would be funny, and I appreciate you asking for it. Tim wants more puppets. If you have 20 plus puppets, why not add small skits here and there with videos or mini joke episodes? For example, Tabletop Escapades could easily have a small fun skit, though I'm aware it would be a ton of work. Yeah, there's the ton of work part, and there's also the expectation of humor, which is something that scares me a lot. We don't really have that in our shows. Like, I think there's always the possibility for a completely serious Frame Trap or podcast or Fiasco Nuts. We all generally tend to just have a fun time when we get together, but having a specific thing being like, oh, this is the part of the show where we're funny, making that commitment to that week after week or month after month is scary to me. And it reminds me of a lot of the great skits that we did back in the day. I mean, Kyle's an exception because Kyle would really, try to do that a lot. But that's where Kyle's brain is at most of the time, is thinking of funny stuff like that. So a lot of the best sequences that we did, like a Bloodborne musical or something, like, were just kind of inspired and just happened either in the moment or were a big project that producer wanted to do. It wasn't something where it's like, well, it's another week, I gotta do a sketch. And so those were my favorites, those ones that just happened. And so if you schedule it and you say, no, this has to happen, to me it has less of an impact. It's less truthful coming to us than something that just happens to pop up. That said, obviously those happen a lot more when there's an office and somebody can literally just blow like the air horn and all of us come gathering and we all shoot it there. Julio is getting realistic. Do you have a retirement plan? An easy A structure organization that can lead elders into being producers and less seen on video. I always fear to lose touch and confidence with the media, and that lack of horizon makes me think something like where 55 Brandon Jones would be in the gaming media. I'm not sure where 55 Brandon Jones. That's a little less than 20 years away, 55-year-old Brandon Jones. 55-year-old Brandon Jones. Will 55-year-old Brandon Jones be watching this video? Going back, a lot of people love to, dig up old bets and stuff like that, promises we make to each other, predictions that we've made on previous podcasts. It's interesting seeing game trailers predictions that are now coming true at Easy Allies. When you hit your 30s, you start to think about retirement, or at least I did. And yeah, it definitely strikes me that, this is like, it's interesting being in business with Kind of Funny, because those guys are so successful that it's interesting to look at Kind of Funny and be like, well, they seem to be sticking to this. So, because this could all go away. I could wake up on January 1st, 2017, tomorrow, and all the allies could go away, all the support could go away, all the funding could go away, and we could have to completely change this thing. But at the same time, I have a tremendous amount of confidence that we're just going to get to know more people and we're going to get more support and continue to do this operation. The question is, are we going to be able to do this with other people? I would love to. I really want to bring in correspondents, people that we can send to events, like somebody coming up is asking about PAX East, which sucks that we're not going to go to, and it's frustrating because we're focusing more on like GDC and potentially Gamescom and like some other things, not Tokyo like we did last year, because Ben's still producing episodes of Tales from the East, and so shifting priorities around like that, it'd be really nice to, contact somebody who is in Australia to go to PAX Australia. And it's not just somebody where it's like, oh yeah, we have like a random person that we know, but like get to know them first and work with them. And I like that it's not called Easy Ally. I like that it's called Easy Allies, and they're, the the plurality of it, if that's a word, being the operative directive that like the more people the merrier. All of you are allies as well, and we want to get everybody's voice heard. That's why we have the Q&A and the community comments, and so. Long story short, yeah, I want to bring in more reviewers so I don't have to review so many games and we can produce more of those. I want to bring in more editors. I want to bring in all sorts of more people. But that's very tricky, not only to conceptualize in this day and age, but to plan, giving all of the other crap that I have to edit. So doing both of those is tough, but that is somewhat of a retirement plan, if that makes sense, Julio. Thank you for the question, though. Sebastian doesn't like added content. I'm talking about DLCs and pre-orders of games. This is a trend that has exploded over the past years, where people are urged to pre-order in order to get extra content or buy season passes. I don't know about you, but for me it feels like it makes the developers lazy by having an excuse to sell half-finished games and blame missing features as, it will come in a DLC later on. I hear what you have to say. I think like anything else, microtransactions, episodic games, there's a good and bad way to do it. And I think some companies, like take Rockstar, I think does a really good job with Grand Theft Auto Online. So that, doesn't necessarily fit into pre-orders. Pre-orders are terrible. Never pre-order games. Just don't do that. Like, that's always the answer to that. It's kind of boring. But for DLC, for added stuff, you look at something like Hitman that did a really good job with the episodic nature of the game, and it actually kind of fits into the lore of Agent 47. And like I said, you have Grand Theft Auto Online, which has added a ton of stuff for free, and has a really simple economy that is maybe tough to get into now, but when that game first started, it was very upfront. It was like, you're a gangster, you're making money, and you're going to use that money to buy all this stuff that's this new stuff that's coming out. Granted, I have not checked out everything that has gone to popped down in Grand Theft Auto Online, so I apologize if I'm getting ahead of myself there, but there's a good way to do it and there's a bad way to do it. I look at you mentioned like DLCs. I think about like MMOs that I've played in the past. Something like a Final Fantasy or World of Warcraft has always done a really good job of making sure when they add stuff that their audience knows about it, that it doesn't just spring up out of nowhere, that they don't add something that people thought they had to pay for and then didn't pay for later. And so there are good examples. So it's tough to like just hate the general concept of it or think that like it's a downward trend or that it's making people do dumber things. I think when you have mostly like shooters and stuff like that, when you have very competitive multiplayer games that want to make money on more maps and more outfits and stuff. But I just think that, like an example, like the dark side of that is pre-order. So again, the moral of the story, don't do that. Utori needs clarification. Not long ago, you sent out a cryptic tweet to Naughty Dog and Huber with 2 words. It said 5 stars. I've messaged you before on why you didn't finish a certain game. In fact, you read it on an episode of Cup of Jones. Can you explain the meaning of that tweet? I'm sorry that this is confusing. I didn't mean it to be. That tweet was about Uncharted 4. I have finished Uncharted 4, and that was a tweet that I sent to Huber because I had finished Uncharted 4 and I agreed with his score of 5 stars. I think that game, as far as how we've set up our new review, granted I have not given 5 stars to something, but if I had reviewed Uncharted 4 by myself, I would have given it 5 stars. And it's interesting to get a certain amount of footage from Huber for him to basically decide what the cutoff point would be in that game to where we're getting too far into spoilers and I don't want to show this stuff in the review. Like, based on my opinions, I believe that you can convey my, my review with the footage that I'm giving you. And there was so much good stuff after that cutoff point. Like once I started to get into that area, that game just absolutely blew me away. And so that was basically me saying that Uncharted 4, that I agreed with his score, that was 5 stars. I thought that would have been clear, so apologies if that was, because it's one thing to send out a cryptic tweet. It's another thing to send out a cryptic tweet when it comes to like working with publishers and reviewing games and why we gave certain games scores. So I don't want that to be confused. Night Owl wants to represent. Will you be selling that kick-ass t-shirt you're wearing as merchandise? I've been thinking about getting an Easy A shirt, and that one looks great. You mean this one? This fancy one? This Easy Ally shirt? Yeah, this we have merchandise. EasyAllies.com. Click on merchandise. That'll take you to our account on Spreadshirt, or you can just Google Spreadshirt Easy Allies, and that will take you to where we do sell merchandise, and we should be selling this one. I need to buy more shirts. I'm going to be talking about resolutions later on, but I need to make that mental resolution that I need to get that Love and Respect shirt. I need to get the black and gray Easy Ally shirt. Should probably get a hat. Probably get a mouse pad. I got some shopping to do at EasyAllies.com. Joaquim's idea is, what if the review just ended with, in the end, we feel that this is an insert decent, excellent, inferior, masterful, terrible game. We rank it as insert rating star out of 5 star. Might still be cheesy, but I don't know. Joaquim is mentioning a concern that was brought up that if you listen to our reviews and do not watch them, there's no way to audibly understand what the score is for the game. And I'm actually going to jump ahead and mention some other questions that also kind of pertain to the same thing. Emmanuel QV has a suggestion. On the VO star rating thing, I think a good way to do it would be to include a short sound effect on each half star when it appears on the screen. That way, it's a subtle thing, but makes the only listeners aware of it. Ben Metal, Tony Knox, and James Hunter Pearson also said something similar to this. And I want to address the review sound effect added dialogue debate in whole, because it's very important. I want to bring this up to the other reviewers. This is obviously something that we would decide as a group. It wouldn't be something that only myself would decide as far as our reviews are concerned. I don't like it. I've thought about it a lot. As far as how we could communicate that to listeners, but the thing I think the best suggestion is the sound effects. I'm definitely not going to say anything because that would just be weird. I've been doing this for a really long time. I've been reading review scripts for a really long time, and that would feel so weird. I don't know how if I could ever get past that. But the sound effects are okay. But I got to admit, I really do like just marrying the music and the visuals together. And so I wonder if maybe when we add the sound effects, we could export a totally different version and put that version up to SoundCloud. And so if you want to just listen to it, you can listen to it on SoundCloud, and then that version will have sound effects. But I really like that visual impact, and it's a hard thing to give up. But obviously you want to cater to all sorts of viewers and have an experience that everybody can enjoy at the same time. I have a desire to do that, which is why I've been thinking about it a lot. But every time I think about it, I don't like it. But thank you for those suggestions. Brandon Cooper is on point. Are any of the allies planning on going to PAX East next year? It's coming up. It's coming up certainly in terms of thinking about budgeting it and putting money away, considering all of the stuff that we want to do in that part of 2017, and it doesn't look like we're going to make it out to PAX East again. Something that I've always really wanted to do, and something that I will do in the future, just probably not this year. Jordan wants Ally merch. What are your thoughts on community submitted merchandise designs for 2017? Maybe allies choose their top 5, and the community votes on the best one each month, with the winner getting their shirt design free as a prize. That's a very interesting idea. I would give you the same answer regardless of whether you had that specific suggestion or not, which is this is something we're exploring. It actually costs money to explore it because we need to talk to lawyers and get things drafted as far as who's going to be paid for what. Obviously, there's all sorts of concerns if somebody's being involved in this and they're not in the United States, that raises the price of everything. And certainly we have a huge international audience. And so this is just, it's sticky, but that's a really good suggestion. So this thing being sticky and that being a good suggestion are both things that are happening. Rick wants more growth. Have you gentlemen considered new ways to boost the discoverability of your content and channel? For example, it appears that the more evergreen style of content, which is more likely to be viewed over time as opposed to a podcast pertaining to recent gaming news and events, is noticeably more sparse. So what Rick is saying is that lots of streams, lots of podcasts, lots of stuff where you're talking about, hey, this game right now is great. Oh, there goes the news for that game. It's over. Nobody's watching those videos anymore. As opposed to retrospectives. Something like a backtrack, something that is about the past and is a celebration of, or not necessarily the past, but it could also be a celebration of, or a discussion of, an analysis of something else that's kind of affecting the industry as a whole. We don't do a lot of stuff like that, and yeah, case in point, we haven't. I think the biggest thing that we do right now in our attempt at discoverability, especially considering we're a brand new enterprise, has been reviews and has been getting those out as timely as possible, getting as many of those out as possible while still keeping to our regular production schedule. Because then people say, oh, Last Guardian review, and they just search for Last Guardian reviews, and then hopefully one of the ones that comes up, prominently says Easy Allies on it, and they wonder, Easy Allies, I've never heard of that before, I wonder what that is. Clicks on it, waits about 8 seconds, and then hears me and then goes, huh? And so that kind of hook we've been trying to do as many times as possible. That's basically been our main focus for growth this year. But in 2017, that could change depending on how difficult it remains to incorporate reviews into everything else that we're doing, which I'll get to a little bit later. But yeah, reviews are tough. Reviews are very time consuming, and it's almost impossible. Deus Ex, when we did that retro, that was very difficult to still review games and still produce that at the same time, still ask that of all of those gentlemen. And that was a very specific franchise. It's only about 4 or 5 games in that franchise. So thinking of something that's like even 10 games is like, even it's like they're RPGs, like, oh man, I don't know if we can, that'll take all year, dear, to produce something like that. Yeah, I like that specific focus on evergreen style of content. Maybe in the comments, let me know of the evergreen type of stuff that we produced at GT other than retrospectives. Which stuff did you like? And which evergreen stuff do you want to see? Joseph is greasing those palms. With regard to incorporating and how it relates to funding, have you ever considered getting VC, venture capital funding, or attempting to? No. Considered, yeah. Thought about, yeah. Actually put into motion, or actually had a strong desire to, no, because of the independence of Easy Allies. Something that I mentioned on Cup of Jones before, I just wanted to answer that question specifically, but independence is super rad. Independence is like a drug right now, and we'll see how long that lasts. But right now, it still feels pretty good. Anton is talking fitness. You mentioned running a half marathon on this one, and I remember you saying you work out earlier this year. Do you still manage to squeeze some workouts into your busy schedule? If yes, what are your fitness goals? I definitely have fitness goals. Fitness goals are the best. I don't want to talk too much about fitness on Cup of Jones because if people really hate fitness, they really hate exercise, and they really hate that, I don't want them to be like, well, I used to watch the show, click. But yeah, fitness is great. 2 fitness goals that I have, I haven't been doing it in a while for like the last 2 weeks because it's been the holidays, but starting next week, 2 times a week, I meet with Sean Clinton, aka German Efficiency, aka Sean for All on Twitter, and he works my ass off. And I'm doing a half marathon at Disneyland for Star Wars, is the Star Wars half marathon, and later on in January. So it's always nice to do like maybe 1 or 2 of those a year. That's 13.1 miles. And so it's nice to train for that in the weeks leading up to that, to do like, run 6 miles and then 8 miles and then 10 miles and then 12 miles and then the 13 on the day. And to try to pull that off, because I wouldn't run as much if I wasn't like, wait a minute, that's in 4 weeks. I should probably start training for that. So those are goals, to do that 2 times a week and to get a couple runs in. And every now and then, especially in the summer, just head down to the beach and run, because I live close to the beach and never actually, get to the beach as much as I should. Hospi Water is reaching out. On the subject of telethons, have you considered doing an annual or more frequently held marathon for charities? It's a great way to get your name out and an event you can plan for and even rotate the allies in and out for. Yes, 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 yes. Resolution for 2017. More charities. Charities, period. We really didn't do any charity work in 2016 because we were still figuring out what the heck was going on with Easy Allies. But now we're getting into our second year. We know what we're capable of. I definitely want to do more of that. So another thing too, maybe mention your favorite charities in the comments and let me know what you would like to see us focus on and work with. Cisco has a good one. Someone on Blood's last stream asked if the allies could post in the forums their food restrictions and shirt sizes. I think a slightly better idea would be to update their bio on the About Us section on the Easy Allies website with this info for viewers who want to send in gifts. Yes, Cisco. Yes, we should do that. Apologies for the some potentially sparse information on the About Us page. We created that when we first created the website, which is very early into development of Easy Allies, and we were just kind of goofing around, and some of us took that more seriously than others as far as how much information they wanted to be included on there. So now that we're being a little more practicable? I'm going to go with practicable. Since we're being more practicable now, I hope that the allies would include a little bit more information on there and maybe write some things down like food restrictions, shirt size, practical information that the allies out in the world would want to know. Because if there's something getting in the way between you and sending us a present, I want to fix that. Cal is getting specific. Have you read any of the A Song of Ice and Fire expanded world material? Dunk and Egg, The Princess and the Queen, The Rogue Prince, The World of Ice and Fire, etc. No. I'm mad at George R.R. Martin right now. I'm mad at the show. I'm a little sour on Game of Thrones right now. It's tough because I'm okay with like where the story's going, I guess. But there were just some really smug characters at the end of the last season of Game of Thrones, the TV show, that I was still a little bitter about. And I'm bitter at Gurm for just, taking forever, basically showing no interest whatsoever in finishing that story. And It's one thing to be into a story, and it's one thing to want to see the continuation of something, and it's another thing like watching its creator, just being like, whatever. And it's like, I'm excited about it. You're not excited about it. Like, you're not excited about seeing where this goes. Like, you're just gonna have a completely almost 100% negative opinion about your own work. Like, all right, I guess I'll stay enthused about it, and whenever you feel like getting around to actually finishing it, let me know. So I know it has nothing to do with expanded fiction. You're like, dude, I asked you about expanded fiction, and now I'm getting like a rant about Song of Ice and Fire. I have not read the rest of that stuff. I am not an avid reader. I do like reading books. I just like playing video games so much, and so a lot of times that gets in the way of that. I know we've talked about like podcast gaming, but sometimes it's fun to put like a book on tape on and just go run around and, grinding Pokemon. But I have not read those. Maybe pick your favorite. Maybe say out of all of those which one you like the most, Cal, and I'll read that one. I think Duncan Egg is the one I'm most familiar with. I think I know that story. I just never actually read it. And after finding out what happens in the story, I was like, I'm okay. I don't know if I necessarily need that to. Those books are big. That world is big. It's been very well defined. I'm pretty good on it. Daggett is getting back to business. Some of EZA's recent Sony videos have new disclosure disclaimers at the beginning and the end. What are your personal thoughts on that? It seems very heavy-handed, but then I think of videos from enthusiastic streamers that haven't disclosed a relationship with a publisher. What Daggett is referring to is some videos that we produced for and around the PlayStation experience, and some reviews that we got, some games that we were given by Sony. Last Guardian, I believe, was one of those, where we had to put a disclaimer on it that said, we got this game from Sony. We are reviewing this game because we received free stuff from Sony. That might happen with other publishers as well this year. I don't know. I know that if you see us do it, it is because a conversation took place that was that publisher saying, do this. And we were like, really? And they were like, yes. We were like, okay. But we'll always ask, like, I just want you as a publisher to understand who we are, that we used to be Game Trailers, that like we're, I know we're labeled as content producers, but we really want to be, maybe not first and foremost, but we are definitely reviewers. That will never stop. We will always be reviewing games. And so we want to be considered to be the same enterprise that we were before when we were at Game Trailers. But that said, we are focused more on our YouTube channel right now than our website. Improving the YouTube channel, getting more exposure there, than getting exposure to our website. Our website's kind of like a resource mostly for our fans. And so we're always going to play ball in that regard. So when you see that, that's us playing ball. And that's a very a direct link between you and that publisher as far as how that content needs to be produced and how we need to communicate to you. And I hope that was all really clear for everybody. That's the other thing too, is what's the specific word usage? It seems very heavy-handed. It is very heavy-handed. But at the same time, it's very clear. And transparency is something that is extremely important to me now that we're easy allies. And so that's a way that we can be transparent, that if it does diminish the content, if it does get in your head and kind of get in the way between, the message that you want between yourself and easy allies, there's nothing we can do about that. And there's some ways we can lessen the blow in the actual implementation of how we do it. So maybe we can, take some suggestions on ways we can improve that and kind of smooth that over. But at the same time, it is what it is. It's there. You understand what it means. We understand what it means. So I think at the end of the day, we're all okay. Krishna likes the Bossman. I don't know if this has ever been asked or told, but what is the story of the final Bossman? I believe from the first episode, it sounded like it was a kind of spur-of-the-moment idea, hope for a show that seemed to work out. That's every show ever, is the spur of the moment idea, hope for a show that seemed to work out. Is Pop Fiction, is Trailer Academy, is Invisible Walls. The story of Bossman. Gather around, kids. Gather around by the fire, and Santa Jones is going to tell you the story of Kyle Bossman. Obviously, Kyle Bossman is the best person to tell this story, but I will always tell fun stories from my perspective. I have a story from another ally down the road that I will have to only tell from my perspective, but I believe Final Bossman's 4 years old? 3 or 4 or 5. I've completely lost frame of time as far as relation to Easy Allies versus Game Trailers, but it was coming up to an E3, and everybody was really curious. I believe this is leading up to the announcement of the PlayStation 4. I don't think we had heard about the PlayStation 4 yet, or something Sony related. And we all sat around a room and we were planning for E3. And Kyle started to get more involved in the planning around events because he was working on GTTV with Jeremy Hoffman and Elise Willems and Megan Rue and a lot of the people that I didn't necessarily get to work with a lot because I wasn't working on those events that they were working on. I was doing reviews and special features and retros and stuff like that. And so we're all getting together, we're all thinking about E3, and it's just like complete spitball session, like anybody who has ideas to produce any kind of content. And Kyle was like, hey, I could do a video about what Sony should do. We were like, great, Kyle. And then somebody turned a camera on Kyle, and Kyle completely transformed, kind of like in the way, it kind of reminded me a little bit of the first time I met James Rolfe, who is the Angry Video Game Nerd. And I was a big fan of the Angry Video Game Nerd, completely separate from him being involved with game trailers and me knowing the guys at Screw Attack. And I just loved that show. Like, to me, I think that was the first like video game internet show that I would wait for and consume every episode and share with my friends and talk with my brother, and we would rewatch episodes and laugh about it. So I first met James Rolfe, and James Rolfe was like a really nice, kind of shy guy, actually. Like, I met him, we went bowling one time with the Screw Attack guys, and he just kind of like hung out by the bar and was really humble and was really nice, like to talk with people. And I was like, oh, like I was waiting for him to be pushy and be cracking jokes and stuff like that. And he just kind of mostly kept to himself. And so it's interesting meeting Kyle, having Kyle be like very polite, very professional, and then get on screen. And, the guy's such a terror, whenever you actually like have the camera rolling. And so the guy just completely laid into Sony in a really funny, really well constructed, really artistic way. He was doing, drawings and stuff like that. And so like from the absolute first episode, I mean, obviously his work, everybody's work like evolves over the years, but the first episode of Final Bossman was the last episode I ever saw of Final Bossman. It was basically the same thing. And because it was such a good concept out of the gate, and he is just so natural on camera. Yeah, so it just goes to show, if you have ideas or you have friends or you have people, you're like, was this gonna work? I mean, shoot it, try it. It's always worth a shot to just like try to produce something and then show it around to people, try to get honest reactions, but you never know who's gonna be great on camera or not necessarily who's naturally great on camera, but what they're good on camera for, because it's interesting, like writing reviews, doing VO, doing this in front of a camera, doing streams where I'm trying to play a game and communicate with people at the same time, hosting something as opposed to actually performing in it, producing something instead of hosting. So fun to fill those different roles. You never know which one you're going to be great at. Alexander says, congratulations on appearing in the Last Guardian Accolades trailer. Can you tell us how this happened? This happened the way it always happens. If you guys haven't seen, I don't know if is it the Accolades trailer? So if you look up on YouTube Last Guardian, everyone's like, yay, Last Guardian's so good. You can see little Easy Allies in there. 5 out of 5. 5 stars out of 5 stars. The perfect Easy Ally score. That happens the way it always happens. We're emailed by Sony and they say, hey, we saw you really, really, really like Last Guardian. Can we say that you really, really liked Last Guardian in the trailer? And we go, yep. All you got to do is just send an email back that says, like, thumbs up. And yeah, we had that happen a bunch. We had actually, I point over there because Daniel Bloodworth brought me a couple box arts that had game trailers quotes actually on the box art. Same thing. They just send you an email. Sometimes it has an image with approval and stuff like that. And it's a nice courtesy to say thank you and thumbs up for stuff like that they don't just like, print it without our approval. But like, why would you ever say no? Just like, what? You want to put no? No? I don't want people to know that I like that game. That's not why I gave that game a good score and produced a video saying so. Get out of here with your Trico quotes. Bakryu asks, I was wondering, when you do your reviews, what level of difficulty do you play the games? Usually normal. A shout out to Michael Huber and Shane Satterfield, who are 2 reviewers in the past who I have seen. Ben Moore, I believe, also does this as well, but mentions difficulties and is like, I tried it on this difficulty, is okay. I'd crank it up to the top if you really want to enjoy it, if you're like a really good fan. I rarely do that. I'll just usually play it on normal and then try to experience that plateau, that base level experience. Sold Out of Life wants the lore. It would be interesting to have an origin story for each ally, like in Final Fantasy games or something of the sorts. Again, our About Us page on the website, we should have lore. There should be like a paragraph that's like, this is where you were birthed. This is where you came from. D&D rules. Ben is getting back to puppets. Have you ever seen the British puppet series Thunderbirds? It's about an organization called International Rescue. Made in the 1960s, it was way ahead of its time in its day and used marionettes. Oh yeah, Thunderbirds are way go with the Jones Man. I can't like recall certain episodes, but like I can close my eyes and Thunderbirds are rocking out in my head. Like I don't know their names, but like I can visualize them. Team America World Police, which was written by Trey Parker, produced by the South Park guys, was a incredible tribute to the whole era of Thunderbirds. I think there were other marionette shows. I don't think it was just Thunderbirds. I'm trying to remember the company that produced that. I think they did other stuff as well. But yeah, definitely know what you're talking about. Thunderbirds are coming back. I think they were at Comic-Con last year. They had a thankfully multiracial Thunderbirds group. But outside of that, I think I went by with Amanda and she saw them. We're like, and I'm like, yeah, they're kind of horrifying. Some things should be brought back. Some things should be brought back, but maybe done differently. But for its time in the 60s, absolutely fantastic. Look up Thunderbirds if you can. Jeffrey White wants some COD love. I've noticed that the EZA folks aren't a fan of Call of Duty announcements at E3 and or PSX. Why does EZA dislike the Call of Duty series? That's pretty harsh. I definitely gave one of the more positive reviews of the latest Call of Duty game. I am possibly less apologetic when it comes to advertising. I'm very serious when it comes to advertising because a lot of people aren't. A lot of people are just kind of like, the trailer was silly and they move on. And I get very, very critical of things that people produce, especially the more money you have, especially the more famous you are, especially the more of a solid track record that you have with performance and quality in your video games and in your advertising. I think one of the things that bums me out about Call of Duty is it gets kind of stuck in a rut. That like live action thing of the person at the end with the two guns at the side, like shooting. It's like, I've seen that 10 times now. You got to stop. And Battlefield 1 opened with like a modern song and this World War I thing. I was like, why are you bothering to go back to World War I? And then you're incorporating like new music into it and not even in a cool referential way that like the song makes sense at all for the source material. So it's like, I look at COD and I basically see them doing again, this kind of like gung-ho, super cocky, we're always the best, kind of attitude, which, isn't a guaranteed failure, but is, it's, again, it's like if you're trying to hit a home run, you swing real hard. It's like you can potentially hit a home run, but if you miss, it's going to be tough to watch. And so COD, it just gets me really frustrated sometimes because it gets repetitive and can think a little bit too much of itself at times and needs to kind of adapt and step back and look at its source material and realize ways it can potentially really shake up its advertising. Because at this point, that's really what would amaze me from a Call of Duty is seeing a trailer and being like, whoa, I've never seen this before. Even though they did something so different this year and did sci-fi and everything, their approach to advertising that concept was the exact same as the last 4 games they had done. So it made it feel much less new and exciting because it was like just the same old COD. But I love the games, EZA definitely does not dislike the Call of Duty series. We had like almost every shooter that came out this year was competent and amazing. So lots of good shooters this year. But trailers, look out. I'm going to take the gloves off every time. Buck Ryu is back with some podcast concerns. I feel how the love and respect questions on the podcast are chosen could be changed. Playing a game is nice and all, but I really do wish questions could be favored over games. I hear what you have to say. I will bring it up to Kyle and the other allies. The one reason why I would prefer to have, there's a couple reasons why I would prefer to have games over questions, not like as a rule, not all the time. And I understand they take up more time and you don't get the same, reaction from us on the podcast. Leading up to that point is usually 30, 40, 50 minutes of straight news. And so it is kind of nice having just like a refresher. And a lot of times they incorporate older games. So it's nice not talking about the present and talking about old stuff. And so it always has a nice juxtaposition with all of the stuff that we debate at the beginning of the podcast. I also like them because they make the podcast more entertaining. And I think as this is something being called the Easy Allies podcast, I think this is kind of one of our biggest like Trojan horses to get out there in the industry and introduce people to, what Easy Allies is. And so when we have games, I do like that it does make the podcast more entertaining. I really enjoy doing those. I think it really picks up the spirits. It picks everybody's energy up after they've been sitting on the couch and talking for an hour. And so what it does to the podcast and what it does to the vibe and the feeling in this room when we talk about games and we play games together, I think it just generally makes the podcast more well produced. We keep in mind I answer questions here. We also have our Q&A. We also have Frame Trap, and there's also just throwing questions at us when we're on stream. So there are opportunities, to get answers out of us that, may be more pertaining to the specific stuff that you're talking about. So that's why I would selfishly want games. But if it's something that Kyle agrees with and the other allies agree with, then maybe we can make exceptions, or at least pick certain episodes out of the year where it's like, okay, no games, we're just going to do regular, really important, pointed, non-funny, serious business questions. Tony misses the Blair. Why didn't Matt Blair join the Allies? Was anyone else from GT left out? No one from GT was left out. Matt Blair would have made 10. Matt Blair was in our group. He was employed at GT when the rug was pulled out from Game Trailers, and went around the room, raise of hand, show hands. Who wants to stick with Easy Allies? Blair was the only one who didn't raise his hand. Blair is pursuing other business aspects. Blair had an interesting story at Game Trailers as far as like what he understood his job was going to be when he first came out of Game Trailers, what he ended up doing, and then through the long and crazy bumpy road to Easy Allies, where he kind of found himself and the opportunities available to himself. And I think a lot of us were really excited about Easy Allies because we were already doing stuff in front of the camera. We were already doing shows that could easily just kind of like, just change the name and I can keep doing my job. And he couldn't necessarily do that because he was really focused on the website, and the website was really just going to kind of take care of itself now, and we were more going to be focused on the channel. And so maybe looked at stuff, what the opportunities that were available to him at Easy Allies, and wanted to seek opportunities elsewhere, which is a thought that all of us had leading into Easy Allies, where it's like, should I keep doing this, or is this an opportunity for me to branch out and do different things? Or can I potentially do both of those at the same time? Or if you're Ian Hank, can you do everything of all the things all the times for everybody in every direction? Matthew is getting his pitch ready. You mentioned about getting more people on board at EZA. What's the best way to get on your radar, especially as an overseas fan? Brandon@easyallies.com. Email me. I will put you into a little folder I'm keeping in my Gmail of people that would be cool to work with. So if I deem y'all a person that's cool to work with, or somebody that would make sense, again, the overseas part is rough as far as finances are concerned, but I just saw The Usual Suspects, and I got the beard for it too right now with Stephen Baldwin in the car. It's like, there's nothing that can't be done. I think there's all sorts of fun things that we can do. Maybe not in 2017, maybe in 2018. We're not going anywhere. And so I want to keep broadening our horizons and expanding our community and the people that work for Easy Allies. So Brandon@easyallies.com. Always send me your stuff. Matt asks, any chance we could get more spoiler casts akin to the Dark Souls 3 discussions? It depends on games. I kind of want to do one on Rogue One. I just saw Rogue One, which was great, and I want to talk about it. It depends on those games. I know sometimes those get incorporated into our shows. I know Huber was waiting for me to talk about Uncharted 4 forever, and then eventually just did it with Brad on Huber Syndrome. I think we need more stuff like that. Maybe when our new Pokemon show, Brandon's son Kyle Moon, is done, we will get back to doing one of those maybe every week in between the stream and the podcast. Just getting a quick 45-minute to 1 hour discussion on any particular franchise, more of like a deep dive, so we can get more. And also there's the concern that a lot of times that gets done in Frame Trap. So stuff like a Persona 5 or Final Fantasy 15, I don't think we would do because, those would probably end up being something that Ben wanted to talk about with the other allies on Frame Trap. So yeah, when it is not going to be on an episode of Frame Trap, and when we're not producing another show in between the podcast and the group stream on Tuesday nights, we could squeeze that in there. Ronnie has a decent idea. Can you guys please make some sort of list of your GOTY Awards picks? 3 hours is a bit long for me, and I really want to see your picks. Yes, keep in mind you can still see our actual Game of the Year video. We were thinking about maybe doing bylines for the people that wrote the segments for the end of the video, but we decided to have it be done in the general Easy Allies voice. But that is a good suggestion. Maybe that's something that we can add to the website really quick. Uzman is ready for the meet and greet part 2. I wanted to know, what were your thoughts on the EZA meet and greet at PSX? Would EZA be willing to do more of these in the near future? In terms of organization, what would you all do differently and how? I would show up on time. I was a little bit late. There was lots of traffic. So I would show up on time next time. And I would have it potentially be a little more organized. There were activities that we wanted to have for people that we didn't have time to set up because there were just so many people there, and it was so exciting to meet everybody that it was genuinely a meet and greet. It just turned into it was like recess at high school, where it was just like all the popular kids, and we were all hanging out with people that we hadn't met before. So yeah, the next meet and greet potentially would be a little bit more organized. One great suggestion that Amanda had that we will definitely do at the next meet and greet, and every meet and greet that we do, is a general Q&A portion that maybe lasts about 10 or 15 minutes at the start, so that if there's any general questions that people want to ask, that we can answer, and then once we break up and then meet with other people specifically, then those people can ask more. You know, it's like, I want to know if Ben Moore thinks about this. Oh, so everybody knows, okay. So then when you go up, you're just like, okay, Zero Escape, Ben, and you can talk to him about something else specifically. We can get the more general questions out in the open earlier to just, save time. Meet and greets are a very interesting social experiment. It's a very interesting thing to think about, like, okay, how can we gain maximum exposure to the most amount of people and basically accommodate all sorts of different types of personalities and people to go to meet and greets for different reasons. I want to make everybody happy. I don't want anybody to like get there and be like, wait, this is not what I thought it was going to be, and I can't get out of this event what I wanted to. So that'll be a mission of mine. Again, no promises, but there are things I would do differently, and I'm looking forward to doing them differently in a couple months when we meet again. Thomas Rogers is doing the hard work. I've been going back through all the Cup of Jones from the year and putting the questions you've answered in a Google Doc. It does not include your answers, by the way. Would you be okay with me sharing this, or do you want to save which questions you answer for patrons only? Yeah, go for it. If it's just the questions, the answers, would be a little bit weird, but if it's just the questions, thank you for putting those in there. I think that's very relevant to go back and look at what were concerns from people at various stages in Easy Allies. So thank you, as always, for doing hard work like that. I appreciate it. Finally, Steve Vella is planning for 2017. Have you ever considered something like a $2 tier or $15 tier for a little bonus something each month? Also, any plans for new merch? I would love to see an Easy Allies sweater, baseball shirt, official Cup of Jones. We definitely need a Cup of Jones something, so I will make that a 2017 goal for our merch. More tiers is something that we could do as well, considering, we kind of realized financially where we're probably going to hover around for a little bit with Patreon, so it'd be nice to add something for people who want to contribute a little bit more or a little bit less and have a comfortable place to do it and a reason to do it. It's been interesting looking at Daniel Bloodworth's experience with something like a Blood Pact, so it'd be maybe fun if, each of the allies had their own kind of subsect of the community that they focused on specifically, and then having those people. You are my $1 and above, aka every patron ever for Easy Allies. You are my community that I speak to on my show. But before we wrap things up, I want to talk really quickly about resolutions. It's the new year, January 1st, tomorrow, 2017, and it's the time of year to talk about resolutions and to think about what you can do for the next year. The concept of adding more stuff to my plate and making promises makes me nervous. I can feel the bubbles in the tummy already developing, the fear building, the tension mounting. So I'm going to have three very realistic things. These are not necessarily tied to any one particular thing. We've kind of talked about stuff a little bit that we're planning on doing 2017, some dates that you might want to put on your calendar. But these are kind of more general New Year's resolutions that I believe I can stick to, I think are important, and I want to communicate with you now so you will hold me to them. Number one, watch more trailers. My name is Trailer Jones on Twitter, if you didn't know that already. And I'm ashamed of myself that I call myself Trailer Jones, and I missed a lot of trailers this year. I'm sorry. It was kind of nice. I know a lot of times people are like, Jones, you work too hard. Jones, take a break. I took a break. I took a break from trailers. Like, that was definitely something that I really was focused on in the GT days. And ever since trailer wasn't in like my job description, it wasn't in my email address. It wasn't at the website I went to every day. It wasn't in my job title. So I stopped watching trailers, and it was kind of nice. It was a nice little vacay. It'll be interesting to go back and see old trailers. Be like, wow, I never saw the trailer. When did that come out? And they were like 2016, I think. I was like, oh yeah. That was my dark ages of trailers. In 2017, I will watch more trailers. If you send me a trailer on Twitter, no matter what I'm doing, I will stop, I will watch it, I will comment on it, I will make a tweet. I've already started doing that. I really liked the trailer for Tattletales, I think, which is a like Five Nights at Freddy's kind of horror game with like a Furby remake thing, and I thought that trailer was hilarious. So if you want to follow me at Trailer Jones to get trailer news, you will get that in 2017. And I apologize for not doing that in 2016. Thank you for letting me take a little break there. Hopefully we'll get to our $45,000 goal. Oh, we hit 40K too. I didn't mention that. So much news, 40K. We're back below 40K now, but it's fine. We hit it. It was nice. It felt good for a couple days. But yeah, watch more trailers. Number 2, review less games, which sounds harsh. And I know you're like, wait, review less games, not get less involved in the game reviewing process, but just me personally, scoring and reviewing games. I did a lot of things in 2016. I worked on a lot of different projects. I worked on a retrospective for a franchise I'd never played before, really, and that was tricky. I started new shows. We did event coverage and award shows and live things that we had never done before. Like transformed my garage into a studio, did lots of crazy things. Reviews, without a doubt, were the most disruptive out of everything that I did. Whenever I would work on a review, my whole concept of time, my commitment to communicating with other, YouTube channels and groups and publishers and even other allies, like I would just become completely introverted and just focused on reviews. And I know there's a better way to do that. I know there's a way, like I'm reviewing Steep right now, which I haven't finished yet. I'm taking my sweet time with that. And so that's not about me like getting right on that Steep train and really delivering that, opinion in a timely fashion, but adding to our review pile, adding to our list of, editorial, benchmarks, making sure Steep is in there, making sure Ubisoft knows that I did play this game. Here's my opinion. I do think, you should work on this, and I liked this part, and I do want to promote your game. But at the same time, man, reviews were just terrible. It's like Pokemon right now. I'm really enjoying. I like doing Brandon Sun Kyle Moon. I'm looking forward to working up for that review. But it's just this big cloud. It's this thing that is just kind of always hovering over me. And anytime it's like, oh, phew, I did that. I have some free time. Well, I should probably play that game that I'm reviewing. And I would like that time instead to be streams. I've really enjoyed doing these episodic streams, playing Red Dead Redemption, playing Disney Infinity, playing Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, starting these series, doing stuff like Spouse Quest, getting other guest people in here, doing other random streams. Like I want to play a ton of LEGO Dimensions. I haven't had time for that. So I'm accepting of the fact that actually going through and playing the huge chunk of a game, something like finishing something like an Uncharted 4 or Dark Souls 3, which I didn't even get to start playing this year, is less and less likely as I move into a role that I feel more comfortable with helping produce here at Easy Allies. So I will review Dreams. I will review Horizon Zero Dawn. I will review Red Dead Redemption 2, obviously, and maybe like one other thing. But I probably will only review like 3 or 4 games in 2017. So, but I'm going to edit a ton of them, and I'm going to read all of them. As far as VO is concerned. So hopefully, unless you're paying attention to that little byline at the beginning, you won't notice the difference. Number 3, finally, more meet and greets, because these were awesome. I did 2 meet and greets this year, one at Comic-Con and one at PAX Prime. And those were great. A little over a dozen people showed up at both of those. It was really nice to hang out with those people and get a beer and chat. And then we did a bigger meet and greet, which there were so many people at when I walked in with all of our equipment, got like a cheer like that. It was so crazy, like walking in down this hallway and like I just finished a marathon or something, or like usually when I hear that kind of cheering, it's for like me and a bunch of other people, but just the fact that it was just me like walking in and everybody was cheering. So yeah, that felt good. Definitely want to do that again. We're planning something pretty crazy for our 1 year. Hopefully we can pull off all of the things that we want to do. But we want as many of you to be out there for that as possible. But I also want to have other meet and greets. I'd love to get together at like a park and have a picnic. I'd love to go on a hike here in Los Angeles. Again, a lot of these are going to be local, obviously. But I'd like to do something a little more concrete at Comic-Con this year because that's relatively close by. I can bring stuff down. I can take the train down to San Diego and like bring equipment with me. The wheels are turning for more really simple, cost-effective ways that if you are local and you are in Los Angeles or San Diego or San Francisco or someplace that we are going to be in 2017, that we can get together and we can possibly work with other outlets and join them for little parties and stuff like that. And so long story short, thank you for coming out. Hopefully I can, create these things that don't cost anything and it's easy to park there and stuff. And we can get together and hang out. Cause Sophie wants to meet y'all and it's not going to happen at these parties. But if we can go to the beach and you can meet Sophie, that would be great. So that is it. Those are my 3 resolutions for 2017. I would appreciate if all of you kept me to them and made sure that I stuck to all that stuff. watching trailers, reviewing less games, and hanging out with all of you more. It sounds pretty great. You know, not having the stress of reviews, watching more trailers, which I love, and not necessarily scoring them, but putting my opinions on them, and hanging out with all the allies. That sounds like a pretty darn good 2017. I know a lot of you were sad about things that happened in 2016, and you're waiting for 2017 to come and hopefully like wash away all these horrible things that are happening. The bad news is that the calendar was created by us dumb humans, and so other than the fact that, you know, the sun rotates around the Earth and that takes 365 days for a year, outside of that, there's really not any other significance to it. So even though tomorrow is 2017, sorry to throw a wet blanket on things, but I just want, you know, the confidence that you have, the belief that we can achieve our goals here at Easy Allies, whether they're our goals as allies for what we want to do in production or your goals and your hopes and dreams and wishes for 2017. We're going to go out and we're going to make them happen. We're not going to wait for these things to happen. We're not going to just, you know, sit around and cross our fingers and hope that happy things happen automatically. We're going to make them happen. We're going to create the world that we want to live in, and we are beginning to do so thanks to all of you. So thank you so much for your incredible support. I hope you had the happiest of holidays. I'm celebrating all of them, by the way, because I'm ready to party. So I will see you hopefully very shortly with more community-focused videos and another Cup of Jones in 2017. Until then, cheers. Happy New Year.